So, hello again, Beata.
Hello,
Um,
Andrea.
good afternoon, isn't it there? And you're at the hospital, are you?
Yeah, today I'm in the hospital. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So, one of the things we discussed after the first recording was that there's a lot of focus with energetic work from the heart and what the heart is capable of, and we have looked at the possibility of having a large connection focus group for Jan, meditating with love from the heart and sending health from the heart, because we do understand that bodies can react with bodies and the intention of the heart. Um, so you spoke to Jan about that. What was his response?
Well, the intention is very powerful, and when a lot of people get together, there's it's it is very, very powerful. Can be very, very powerful. And been listening to Greg Braid and Joe Dispenza that go into the heart. I think there is this Heart Math Institute. There is a lot of science also behind that, and there is no doubt that when people get together, even Jesus said that if many people get together, put their intention, put their heart into something, then it's not just 1 + 1 is 2, it's 1 + 1, it's at least three, and it's so we are on board with that.
Yeah, it's interesting because we didn't start this off with that intention, but it's
No,
by the time the second video came along, it was there, and it was a very powerful connection I had this morning that brought that to my mind, and I thought let's do this.
it's a brilliant idea.
So, just going back to where we were, I'd like to ask you some questions about daily life and challenges, and then we can have a look at some of the therapeutic interventions that he's had so far and how that's actually helped him or not, or what your experiences have been with that. So, what is a typical day like for you as his caregiver, balancing your needs with his needs?
Well, while he was at home, it was a little different from now while he's in the hospital. But his condition is due to oversensitivity. The nurses cannot really do the caregiving. It's too much for them because you have to operate completely in the dark with preparing the food, preparing the spoons. So some days he can take in 8 spoons. When we started, it was just 1 teaspoonful of apple pie. Now he has 4 meals a day, like one plate, yeah, basically. But it has to be completely in the dark. So the nurses can't do that. They can't deal with that. So one of us, as I said yesterday, I'm 4 times a week for 12 hours in the hospital, and then his father 3 days a week for 12 hours. As now, I mean, I can leave the room for an hour or so, but for example, yesterday he had a crash in his arms. So it's also difficult to move the bottle if you want to urinate and the bottle is too heavy, he cannot operate it. So he's always in need of some
Some
kind
support.
of support. The difference to home for me is that I mean, I cannot sleep well at night at the moment, but when he was in the house still, I hardly could sleep at all because I always felt this pressure of being responsible. He would call me at least 3, 4 times a night. So I didn't get any sleep, or I didn't get much sleep. And I have been really exhausted because also a day you are now not able to rest really. So this has been a big relief for me, him being in the hospital, that at least at night I'm not feeling responsible because I'm not there.
So I was going to ask you about the practicalities of feeding him. But I guess as well with that question now, it seems apparent that he is starting to intake a little bit more food. So there's been some positive progress with that.
Definitely. I mean, it has not gone like, the curve has not gone like this. It has been, we started off here in the hospital we started off with one teaspoonful of apple pie, let's say every 2 hours. So we have gone up and up one day. But when we went a little over the top, we were back to one teaspoon. So it was incredibly challenging, and it took a lot of discipline and patience to always start at zero again. And it was so hard and psychologically to, when you go a little over the top, and mostly you realize only when you've already done it, or he has done it, and then you're just back on zero again, and you have to start all over again. So this is something that is now for at least a month. It seems stable, but I have to knock on wood because it can change again. Whereas the sensitivity to light, to noise, it has just got worse. So it's
So you're feeding him completely in the dark. And when you're saying it goes from, say, 8 teaspoons to zero, what makes that happen? Is it his stomach? Is it his bowels? What sort of reaction is he having?
well, that's why we started the journal, to really track what is causing a crash, whether it's the amount of food he's intaking, because his stomach could only handle a certain amount. And if the food doesn't pass the stomach and it sits there, it can cause a crash. And then it depends which kind of food. There is food that travels the stomach really quickly. Other food is just blocking everything. So we had to track it in a journal and then see which food goes well, which amount goes well, and always stay in the safe place. If we go to the unknown, we have to be very, very careful. So if we start with a new ingredient, we have to be very careful. So that was the main thing, the pacing and the journaling of what kind of food, how much, what time of day. This is also important because when you realize when he's eating too late in the evening, his body cannot handle it. Far worse than when he's eating more. He can eat more during lunchtime, for example. So these little things can cause an immense reaction.
So has there been any therapies that has offered some relief, even if it's just temporary?
Since April 23 last year, we were in emergency mode because of not being able to drink, not being able to eat. So you're in emergency because you need outer help, and the rejection of the hospitals and so on. It took so much time and energy that it took a lot of time to get into the therapy mode. And he was already in such a bad state that there were certain therapies that could have worked, but he was not able to tolerate the therapies. So, for example, we tried the frequency therapy, but with the plasma mode, it's making a noise, it's sending a signal. He couldn't tolerate that. And when we blocked that out, even a very soft program, because in the frequency therapy, you have the killing mode and the healing mode, even doing 1 hour of lymph healing, it was too much for him. His symptoms increased and he couldn't cope with it. I have talked the negative reactions he had with the plasma mode. So this is, you have the generator next to you and it's sending the frequencies directly. I think with the remote mode, he could handle it in a better way, which we tried then 1 year later with the Spooky 2. And which also had an effect, a detox effect, but we can come to that maybe later. So I had a very good experience with the frequency therapy. For example, I got rid of a virus within 2 weeks, just like that, that you normally don't get rid of. In August last year, it was the first blood wash he had. It was called immune adsorption. So what is done, you have the blood is taken out and then it goes through filter system and then it goes back again into the body. And this filter system was taking out the autoantibodies because the symptoms he had, or what has been noticed, was that he had autoantibodies in his blood that would cause an autoimmune reaction because his immune system was compromised. And because his immune system was compromised, he was producing these autoimmune antibodies, and then these autoantibodies caused an autoimmune reaction. His nervous system got compromised, his digestive system got compromised, so all his body was affected. And they took out these autoantibodies, and this was done in Berlin, and he could, for a very short period of time, he could sit up again, he could walk, he could sit in a wheelchair, he could eat again, but yeah, it only lasted for a few days, and then later it went worse than it was before. So first we were very euphoric, but then the body was producing again these autoantibodies because the root cause was not addressed. It was just filtered out, and then the body would just produce it again. So then he did another 2 blood wash. The second one was in a different hospital in Bavaria, where it's called the help apheresis, where people who have like clots, blood clots, have very good results, but also it would filter out the spike protein. Unfortunately, he had 5, but there was no consequence, not feeling better after these 5.
So that was a temporary relief. Has there been any other therapies that have offered any form of temporary relief? Or
well, the third blood wash he had it's called toxophoresis, because when we were in the clinic, he did like provocation test, which is like you get an IV, you get some products that make the toxins leave the tissue and go out with the urine. So it turned out that he was completely intoxicated. He had a lot of toxins in his body. So we did it's called toxophoresis, where the blood again goes through a filter, and this filter is this time it's taking out the autoantibodies. It's taking out all the inflammatory proteins because they form bigger molecules, so they are caught in the filter of this machine. It's a very advanced system. And then they filter out also the toxins, not only heavy metals, but also pesticides and insecticides and all kinds of things. And then we got it sent to a laboratory. And the doctor said he had never had a patient who had, I think it was 100 substances who were tested, and he had at least 98% of everything that was tested in high amount. So it was clear that also the toxins in his body have caused the symptoms at one part. So one part was the autoimmune reaction, the autoantibodies. Another part was his overall inflammation in the body. And the other part was the toxins that he has accumulated. And for all this blood wash has helped. But he had only 2 because you can only get it in an ambulance mode. It's not done in a hospital. So cases that are severe as Jan, it's very, very difficult to do it because you would need at least another 10 or 20 times to do this blood wash to get that stuff out of him. So this 2 times he had was not enough. So that was the main therapies he has undertaken.
And what's the communication been like with the therapists and the doctors and the practitioners, during his journey?
Mm, Well, obviously, people who are offering such kind of therapy are more open than the conventional hospital mode. And they also get paid. That was another thing we found out, because uh, they rejected us or him because there was no way they could get paid for this, because it did not really exist. So that was also a reason why we had problems. And they were in general very, very concerned to help and willing to help.
Mm.
Yeah, interested to help.
And has there been any specific therapies or methods or approaches that maybe could have been explored but have not been available to you? Other than the wash that you mentioned with the toxins that were available in the ambulance, but not in
Well,
the.
the last blood wash is, I'm sure that it will help, because all the three things we have, like black on white, from the laboratory, that he's highly inflamed, the inflammation processes all over the body, autoimmune and autoantibodies, toxins. This is all washed out with this last blood wash. You only need many more rounds. But if this is everything, we don't know. We know, that's my opinion, I guess, that his cells don't get enough oxygen, so the mitochondria is not able to work. And there might be like a wrong pathway, so that the oxygen doesn't get to the mitochondria or whatever, because this needs to be investigated in study groups. I'm not a professional, I cannot say that. But in general, there were other things we have tried, and that might be interesting for the listeners who maybe are not in such a severe state. We had good results with hydrogen water, because this is like, you can drink it or you can inhale it. Like, I have a bottle here that you just this is normal water, and then you can change it to H2 water, and this helps you to fight the free radicals, so the cells get more oxygen. Or you can use hydroxychloroquine. There is a doctor who is called Andreas Kalka. He has done a lot of studies, so this is good for every illness, because it's fighting the viruses, the bacteria, and it's getting also more oxygen into the cell. You can do ozone therapy, where your blood is enriched with ozone. So all these therapies are detoxifying your body as well in a very smooth way. So that's something we can still do aside, also in his case, but we have only started it like a few weeks ago, so I cannot really say too much where it's going. Yeah.
So, how has the financial or emotional cost of therapies affected your family's journey and Jan specifically?
Emotionally, I would say for me, my body has produced too much adrenaline. So for me, it was very difficult to relax and to just calm down, sleep, just switch off to relaxation mode. For Jan as well, but this is part of the illness, that your nervous system is so much impacted that you're always on like adrenaline, and you cannot. That's why people with ME/CFS cannot sleep, because they're always switched on. They're always in stress, fight, and flight mode. And so emotionally, it was very difficult to cope with, because there was very little relaxation period. So talking to you helped me a lot, and getting like dealing with the spiritual side, to drink energized water, to do my prayers, this has helped me to deal with the situation. And also financially it was stressful because it's not therapies that are paid for normally, or you have to really fight for it. You need lawyers, you need this and that, and it's consuming a lot of time and energy and money.
And with that journey in mind, and all of the therapists and practitioners and doctors and consultants that have been involved with Jan's treatment so far, if they're watching this video, what would you like to say to any of them?
Oh, that's impossible to do that, because the range is so, it's from like completely impossible reactions. Like there was one, well, I cannot go into detail because we would probably need 10 hours, but we had the police in our home, we had a psychiatrist in our home, I was accused, we had to go to the courts, because some doctors wouldn't accept that I wasn't leaving the room while Jan couldn't speak. And we have experienced a lot of really strange things. So this doctor I would address in a different way than other doctors that were very helpful and very also interested to know more about this condition and to look for a solution together with us. So because you have to work together, that's my opinion. I have seen doctors who say, "Oh, we decide. You don't know anything. You don't decide anything. You don't need to know anything. So you stay out of our field." But then in the end, they don't know about this issue, about this condition. So you cannot go and say, "Oh, relax, I'm relaxed, and you do everything." It's not like this, because if you're not very alert, Jan's symptoms go up the roof. So the ideal doctor for me is the one that is collaborating and doing like teamwork with respect. So to explain the conditions, to explain maybe the laboratory values that I don't know a lot about. So to work together and to find a solution together.
So would it be right and fair for me to say that at this moment in time, that the actual condition and the cause of the condition is baffling, and there isn't really any concrete evidence or understanding as to what is causing this in his body right now to be able to treat the current status?
Well, we don't know for sure exactly, because there needed to be like a professional to say, we need to do this and this exam, we need to take blood and look for this and that. I mean, there are certain things we know, as I've said before, the inflammation, the toxins, the autoimmune antibodies, but I'm sure there is also other things that we don't know, and I don't know whether to address these three. It might help to improve the symptoms, but I'm not sure whether this is the whole picture. I don't know. We don't know whether it's the spike protein that is still produced that is causing this permanent reaction, or whether it has just kicked on and now it's a process by its own. I cannot look into it because I'm an artist, I'm an art teacher, I know that his body the cells need more oxygen. The mitochondria need more oxygen to work properly. And that's where we are working with. And we are now working with what is possible. We try to do another toxophoresis, even though at the moment I don't know how we can make it, because at the moment he cannot tolerate any light. So I don't know how to do that.
So if there's anybody out there that has some suggestions, some ideas as to, and have experienced this before, what would you like to say to these people that might be out there with the expertise?
You're always welcome to contact me or us.
And please do.
Please do.
Please do, yes. So just going back to the balance of hope and realistic expectations, when you're exploring therapies, what would you say right now is your balance on that, with respect to the things that you've progressed with, the things that you've observed so far, all of the temporary progressive things that you've noticed, and then some of the things that are happening right now with that he's eating right now, with respect to the balance on that and where your heart is emotionally, what would you say is the current state of mind of yourself and Jan?
Well, my state of mind is probably different from Jan's. I will start with mine because it's me. So if I start with the physical level, I'm that kind of person that is like analytical, and I want to know what's happening, and I want to know how to deal with things. So I see we have to address the immune system, we have to address the nervous system, we have to address the digestive system. So how do we get the candida out? How do we get this virus out? So I'm functioning on the physical level in this way, like analytical, and to see what can be done on this level. But then on the level of emotions, we are also working. We are doing energetic work where we look at which chakra is unbalanced, and we do chakra balancing and chakra clearing nearly every time I'm there, and which emotions are involved into these processes. Well, that's the energetic and the emotional level. So we are also doing a lot of that. And Jan's perspective, he's also on the physical level, like he's on board with like therapy options. Like he was very keen on the H2 inhalation. He could feel like an immediate response of his body, and he was happy about that. Or he's eating like the Buladi mixture I've made to get rid of the candida. Or he's on board on the physical level, but he's much more operating on the emotional and the spiritual level. So he's meditating a lot. His mind is very clear, and he's very much by himself, very stable. I mean, in these circumstances, he's incredibly stable, incredibly clear, and incredibly light. And this could not be without intense spiritual work and practice every day for hours.
He's amazing, really, in what he's doing. So where would you say that your expectations are right now, and where Jan's expectations are right now?
Towards who?
Towards anything, any future experience, or are you really focusing on the power of now and staying as present as possible?
Yes. As far as the future is concerned, we are pressured by the hospital. Again, we received a letter from, how do you say, from the court. So we have to deal with that, and they want to they say it's, Jan is here now for 7 months, and the cost for the hospital is going up because they don't earn it, they don't make enough money if patient is there for so long, so they want to move us out, but it's difficult if someone cannot drink water, so it's a difficult situation. But we have decided to leave in January. So that's a challenge in the future, how to manage. That's as far as the future expectation goes, to deal with this new situation, to go basically back home. How will it be with pain therapy and so on. But most of the time we are focusing on the now.
Okay. And then with that in mind, then, if you're looking to be leaving the hospital in January, come what may, that may be, if there's any researchers or anybody out there that have some expertise, that may be able to focus on any particular area to help Jan, what area would you ask them to focus on? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, for Jan, ideally, the ideal situation would be to have a safe place where he can get the therapy he needs. Because at home it's always very tricky, and basically the medical world is split in two. You have this one part that is very traditional and very stiff. They won't accept any other opinion. They think they are God and you are nothing. I'm exaggerating, okay? And the other part, they have split from this part, and they look for alternative solution. The best would be if both would work together, because we need both. We need the IV, but we also need alternative therapy. But we don't know how. So I'm sure there is, we know from our WhatsApp group, there is a lot of people who are suffering silently at home. They can't go into hospital because of that. And at home, it's hardly manageable. So I'm sure I know we are not alone in this.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we mentioned in the last video, that there is a WhatsApp group there with connections, and there are potentially many, many, many more people that are experiencing these reactions since 2021. No, 2019, isn't it? COVID 2019.
Jan started with in 2021. I mean, other people have it they might have it from other things. But it all comes down to genetically manipulated tissues. So it's not a natural illness. Judy Mitkovitz, she's a scientist who worked with HIV science. She has written a book also, and she mentioned also the chronic fatigue syndrome. And I mean, if you read into it, so you get to the same conclusion that it has to do with also genetically modified tissues.
What book is that exactly? What's the title of it?
The Plague of Corruption, it's called.
Right. Yeah. So if anybody's watching that would be interested in reading that as well.
That was before COVID even started. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do you find the strength to keep going, to keep seeking answers, when progress has felt elusive or slow sometimes, how do you find the strength to keep going?
There is no other way. It's sometimes I feel my strength is not so much there, but then one day later I do my exercise, I go into the woods, and then it's coming back. But it's an up and down as well.
Yeah. Well, our hearts go out to you and Jan, and if we can get a big group of people sending that energetic vibration to Jan and yourself, in terms of the healing, specifically for Jan's body, that would be absolutely wonderful. You have sent some videos and some photographs of Jan and his journey. There's one in particular that I saw that just really stood out, and it's where Jan is, he's playing table tennis. He actually managed to play table tennis at one point. Can you give us a little bit of insight into that?
Yeah, we did this. It was his first blood wash we did in Berlin, and we were not sure when we left the hospital whether it needs to be repeated. Like one month later, we have to come back to do it again. So my friend, she's living in the outskirts of Berlin. She said, "Oh, you can come and live with us for a month, and because it's very beautiful, we have lakes and we have a big house, so you can stay with us and then see whether you need to go back to the hospital or you can travel back south because it's an 8-hour drive in the ambulance." So he said, "Okay." So the first days, I said it did not take long, his improvement, but the first days he could eat, he could get up, he could go in the wheelchair, and he could even play a little table tennis from the wheelchair. But that was the only one.
Yeah. And that lasted a few days.
The improvement lasted a few days. Table tennis was just once.
So are there any other particular videos or photographs that you'd like to shout out on this stream as well?
I think it's good to see for all the people or all the listeners to see who he was before and who he became through these conditions. But I believe that nothing is incurable, and as much as you can go forward, you can go backward, you can go backward, you can go forward. And even in the most desperate situation, I think there's always still hope to turn it back to health, to start to help the body to rejuvenate again. So the body just needs the right trigger, the right impulse, and then he can start to heal again, because your body wants to heal. Your body doesn't want to be ill and suffering. So I still believe that it is possible, and we haven't given up. So.
And yet Jan's still very focused, every day meditating and focusing, and I believe you are too in that.
And I think the images show this contrast now of being happy and lively and healthy and being in absolute desperate situation. So it's showing both sides of reality.
Okay, so is there anything else that you'd like to add before we close out this recording?
I think what we have mentioned today, there is so many impulses. You can go more into detail, and today I'm very fascinated about water, and we have also shared some information about water, how you can imprint it, and this is for me, a very fascinating topic, how you can imprint water with energy and then transfer the energy up to someone else. And also with the H2 water, with the hydroxychloroquine, it's all, and even the ozone water, there is a big capacity in water, and also how it's taking on information, how it can be imprinted, and how it has conscience. I mean, water, maybe we are not aware, but water has a conscience. It's a living being. Like every stream is a living being, every water is a living conscience. It can have a healing effect. So unfortunately, Jan cannot drink water, so it's a challenge. But
so with that in mind, you've been working with the inhalation with Jan to get that life force of water that's been looked at energetically, spiritually, and even with frequencies. You've been using inhalation to get that into his body.
With inhalation, we've only been working for maybe, let's say, a week, not too long, because he cannot even tolerate the little nose thing that goes into the nose. It needs to just be outside. So it's also a tricky one. That's a difficult thing with Jan. It's all tricky, but maybe if some people are listening who are not in such a severe state, who might be still able to drink water, this is something I would like to encourage you to put more focus on the water. It's my closing word for today.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you, and my heart's always there with you and with Jan, and very much in our thoughts, and anything that we can all do to help, absolutely, we'll be there.